All right, everybody, welcome to Pick Some Politics. I'm Dan Manarino, and let's get into it. It's the talk of the city and the state for the past month, New York City's finances. A budget crisis Mayor Zohran Mamdani compared to the Great Recession. A gap he originally pinned at $12 billion now sits at about half that. The mayor this week delivering an ultimatum, though, that he feels forced into. Listen.
There are two paths to bridge this gap. The first is the most sustainable and the fairest path. This is the path of ending the drain on our city and raising taxes on the richest New Yorkers and the most profitable corporations. And if we do not go down the first path, the city will be forced down a second, more harmful path. We would have to raise property taxes.
That idea did not go over well with pretty much anyone. Later on, you're going to hear New Yorkers' opinions on the proposal, but even the city's top money guy, City Controller Mark Levine, is not on board. I spoke to him on the Pix 11 Morning News earlier this week. Listen. Let's start with property taxes. Do you think that's the wise move?
No, I don't. Property taxes in New York are incredibly unequal. Actually, a brownstone owner in Park Slope pays a lot less than a brownstone owner in, say, East New York. So to add more taxes onto that unequal system is unacceptable. We should not be doing that.
So many leaders are echoing the controller's opinion, and as we've seen many times already, Governor Kathy Hochul remains steadfast in her promise to not raise taxes. So to help break down the mayor's budget and what's really at stake for New Yorkers is Andrew Rein. He's the president of the city's budget commission, and he is going on the record. Andrew, great to have you here. Great to talk to you once again about such an important topic to New Yorkers.
Thank you for having me.
So it's been quite the journey, right? So you just heard me kind of lay it all out with the $12 billion. A few days later in Albany, that number was half, and we're even a little bit lower than that now, about $5 billion. What do you make of all of the numbers that have kind of been thrown out the last couple of weeks?
The reality is the mayor has adjusted his estimates, first because tax revenues were higher and a couple of other things. But no one should look at that reestimation and say we don't have a problem. We do. We have a significant budget problem. It will not magically go away. He needs to take deliberate action to close that. Now, it was reduced from 7 to 5.4 with the governor stepping up, but he still has to close the rest of that gap.
So when we talk about a budget deficit, there are these huge numbers that often get thrown around, right? And at first people are like, oh, it's a scare tactic to kind of get what you want in terms of your agenda. But this is a pretty massive one. So how do you get into this problem to begin with?
A lot of people look at the prior administration's under budgeting as the cause. It actually wasn't the cause. It masked the problem but did not cause the problem. And it's certainly not revenue problems because our revenues are coming in hand over fist. We're doing great. What has happened is we've layered on programs, we've expanded programs, some of these very good, but we haven't exercised the political will to make them affordable by going into the city budget, identifying lower priority spending that's not improving New Yorkers' lives, and getting rid of it and making government more efficient. That's what we need to do. We should have done it before, but that's the solution now.
Well, that sounds like a no-brainer, Andrew. I mean, right? Doesn't it sound, that sounds like a task that should have happened in every administration. They just don't do it. So here we are with this problem now. And so the mayor kind of gives this ultimatum. Raise the taxes on the wealthy or raise property taxes. Are either of those a good option?
Frankly, this is a false choice. We should not be raising, we should not be doing his preferred option of raising taxes on personal income taxes and business taxes, and the governor said no. And he has said his only option is to raise property taxes and dip into reserves, both unwise. Frankly, what should be the option, that's why it's a false choice, what should be the option is going into those agencies, identifying spending that's not improving New Yorkers' lives, and fixing the inefficiencies that are there. He signed an executive order on your show to do just that. That's where his primary focus needs to be.
So are you saying hold off on these choices, hold off on putting the pressure on lawmakers to do something, and wait, because he gave them 40 days to go about that?
Yes. It is a false choice. He should be focused on that, but he needs to be much more ambitious. He should be just as audacious and ambitious about focusing government, making it efficient, and delivering and being cost effective as he is about making New York affordable. If he does that, he can close this budget gap, improve services, and make sure that those services are affordable not only for New Yorkers today, but they'll be there in the future.
So I'm just curious, because we kind of hear this idea of raising taxes, raise the tax on the wealthy, not only in New York, but around the country. So from his standpoint, from a democratic, socialist, progressive mayor, isn't that kind of fitting the agenda?
No, I understand that as part of the agenda, but as mayor of a local government, we are in fierce competition with other places for people and for businesses. We need people who are going to come here and pay the taxes that support our teachers, fires, sanitation workers. We need the businesses who create and hire jobs and hire New Yorkers. We are in a fierce competition. We're already the highest tax jurisdiction in the country.
Yeah.
To raise those taxes risks us being unattractive to those constituents.
So I hear you, right? And that is often what people say. Is that a fear, a real fear? Meaning, would people, if the taxes go up, would they actually leave?
Here's the thing. The polemics of the argument saying, oh, everyone's going to jump ship and leave tomorrow is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just not the case. But we are chipping away at our competitive foundation. Our share of the nation's millionaires has shrunk dramatically. If that share had stayed constant, we have $3 billion more in revenue today. Think about how that would close over half this gap. For publicly traded companies, the headquarters, we lost 41 of those headquarters between 2020 and 2025, while Texas and Florida gained 60 and 70 of those headquarters. We're chipping away at our foundation. That has long-term deleterious effects.
So when I asked the mayor, when he was here signing that executive order, I said to him, can you identify some of the areas maybe? He named this AI kind of robot thing that was $500,000. Do you have some suggestions?
You got to look at the big ticket items and also go in, like that executive order says, with a scalpel. Big ticket, he should be going to Albany asking for relief from the class size reduction mandate. That relief would allow him to manage the school system better and save $1 billion. We should be adjusting school funding, not only when enrollment goes up, when enrollment goes down. $400 million. We should finally fix our broken procurement reform system, and that would save $400 million. And then those savings officers should actually go into all the agencies and find it, because there are inefficiencies and low impact programs marbled throughout. Unless you get inside, and I know that from personal experience, unless you get inside, you're not going to find it. That's the task at hand.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that also the comptroller mentioned. He said, the population of students has gone below a million, but it's still being budgeted as if it was the 1.1 million.
Exactly. We lost 100,000 students, yet when schools shrink from 500 to 400, we give them the same money. It doesn't make sense.
Okay. So, you you just named them like boom, 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 boom. Have you had conversations with the administration kind of giving them your viewpoint? Because you're a vital part of this kind of equation that's being put together.
Listen, we are always in good contact and always have good relationships. Different people have different priorities. Here's the thing. His priority is to make government work for people. He ran on that platform. He feels very strongly about it. Who better than someone who believes government should work than to make it efficient, focused, and excellent?
Help me understand something that is often said, right? And that is the governor said, I'm not for raising taxes. The city council speaker said, I'm not for raising property taxes, right? So it kind of sounds like he's not going to get what he wants, whatever avenue he goes. But also I'd say to the mayor, if the governor gives you money and it gets you to where you need to be, is that a good enough solution? And he said it's a short-term fix. Is it?
He's right, actually, that we need structural fixes. Because if we just kick the can down the road and have to come back again and again, the people actually suffer with their services. So we need structural fixes, which is why you want to right-size our spending, which is dramatically increased. You want to right-size that so it is sustainable over time. There's always a budget negotiation between the mayor and the council, the mayor and the governor. The mayor and the governor have been strong partners, as has the mayor and the council speaker. What we hope at the end of the day, with a chorus of people saying there's ways to fix government from inside, that's the focus.
Right. But I'm saying, like, if she comes out and says, I would give you $5 billion this year, or whatever it may be. She already gave him 1 point something. Can that fill the reserve? And plus the inefficiencies, would it get you where you need to be?
Here's the thing. A one shot in our budget parlance. One shot's just kick the can down the road and we have the problem again. The other thing is she needs to remember, as she knows, she's running for re-election. Her plan is to be managing that budget in a few years. They're okay now in their finances. They have a $15 billion structural budget gap that the state has to close. She has to be very concerned about the state's finances. She has stepped up significantly, but she needs to look to the future for all of us New Yorkers.
Can you explain the reserves to me, right? Because he says he wants to go into the reserves, deplete them to kind of fill some of this. Controller says that's a terrible idea. What's the reserve for?
We have 3 pots of reserves. We don't need to go into detail of all of them, but let's think about the recessionary reserves. We have $2 billion. In an average recession, we probably need $11 billion over 2 years of revenue loss. We only have $2 billion now. He wants to take half of that to close this budget gap. That is actually putting at risk our ability to protect New Yorkers during the next recession. Furthermore, he says we're going to pay it back. But when you look at when we're going to pay it back, the budget's already in deficit in his financial plan. So we really need to protect and, frankly, build those reserves.
Okay.